All right, everybody, welcome back in. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the airline industry and particularly some news from Southwest Airlines.
Yeah, so it seems like more and more lately, airlines are less concerned with customer service and more focused on just driving revenue.
For sure. And we're going to use this Southwest press release as a jumping off point for a conversation about this trend.
Right, this Southwest press release has a bunch of changes that we're going to break down, like new fare types and loyalty program tweaks, and they're even partnering up with Iceland Air.
Yeah, it's interesting because Southwest historically has been known as a very customer-friendly airline with their free checked bags and their open seating.
Right, and it'll be interesting to see if this is like the beginning of a larger industry trend or if it's just Southwest doing their own thing.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's dig into the details of this press release from Southwest.
Hmm.
One of the things that jumped out at me is they're going to start charging baggage fees for some travelers.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a trend across the industry for a while now where airlines have realized that baggage fees are a really great way to drive revenue, especially as more and more passengers are looking for those budget-friendly fares.
No, like I said, it's definitely becoming more of a pick and choose what you're willing to pay for type of thing, and baggage is one of those things.
Right. So under this new Southwest policy, if you want to check a bag for free, you've got to be a Rapid Rewards A-list preferred member, or you have to be traveling on a business select fare, or if you're an A-list member, or if you use their credit card.
Otherwise, it's going to cost you, and this kind of leads into the bigger discussion about the value of loyalty programs. Are they really rewarding loyalty, or are they really just a way to encourage people to spend more money?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. And, it's something we can consider throughout this deep dive as we look at how things are changing.
Exactly. And in line with that, Southwest is also changing their Rapid Rewards program. They're giving more points to people who travel on business and people who book more expensive fares. And that means people on the more budget-friendly fares might earn less.
So essentially, they're trying to cater to a slightly different type of customer, someone who is willing to pay a premium for some extra perks and privileges.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the baggage fees and the loyalty program changes. What else is in this Southwest press release?
Well, they are also introducing a new fare structure with a basic fare option.
Oh, yeah, the basic economy fare. So you get your seat on the plane, and that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, again, this is a trend we've seen throughout the industry where they're offering these super stripped down fares so they can be competitive with the low-cost carriers while still offering the more comprehensive options for those who are willing to pay more.
So it's like if you want the cheap seat, fine, but you're not going to get any of the extras.
Right, and all those extras like early boarding seat selection and flexibility with changes, those are all becoming more valuable as airlines try to squeeze as much money out of each flight as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then another thing that surprised me is they're getting rid of open seating and going to assigned seats and extra legroom options.
This is huge for Southwest.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things they were known for, this open seating policy. So clearly they're moving away from this model of appealing to the budget traveler. Now they're giving people more choices, but you got to pay for them.
Yeah, right?
Well,
You want legroom, you're going to have to pay for it. So, I mean, is this really a sign that flying is becoming less about the service and more about just maximizing revenue?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point and something we should definitely be asking ourselves. But to be fair to Southwest, they are still the best in the industry when it comes to on-time performance so far for 2025. And they have a really impressive low cancellation rate.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Are they trying to justify these revenue-driven changes by making sure that at least your flight is going to be on time?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? And would you be willing to make this trade-off? I guess we'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it gets to the heart of what we're going to talk about today. How are airlines finding this balance between profitability and customer satisfaction? I mean, it's almost like we're seeing this like stratification of the flying experience, where on the one hand, you've got these super budget-friendly fares, but they're just the bare essentials you're just getting from point A to point B.
Right. It's becoming like an a la carte menu.
Yeah.
You want a seat. Sure. You want to check a bag, that'll be extra. You want legroom, that'll be extra too.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad in a way, like the golden age of flying is gone.
Yeah. I mean, there is that nostalgia for that era of flying, but we also have to remember that air travel was a lot more expensive back then relative to income. Like, it was a luxury that not everyone could afford.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe this is kind of a return to that model where flying is becoming more of a premium service.
Yeah, it's possible, but I think the difference now is that there's so much more demand for air travel. People are used to it being relatively affordable and accessible.
Right. So the question is, can airlines find a way to balance that demand with their need to generate revenue.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is, can they maintain some level of customer service in this new landscape?
Right, because it seems like as airlines get more and more focused on the bottom line, customer service kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there, long lines, delayed flights, lost baggage, and customer service agents who just don't seem to care.
Ugh, it's enough to make you want to just never fly again. But,
Yeah.
for a lot of us, it's just a necessity. So what can we do to make this whole experience a little less painful?
Well, I think the first thing is we need to adjust our expectations. Those days of free check bags and spacious seats are gone.
So we need to be prepared to pay more and, maybe sacrifice a little comfort.
Exactly. And that means being savvy when you're booking your flights. Shop around, use travel search engines, be flexible with your travel dates.
And don't forget about loyalty programs. Even though they are changing, they can still offer valuable perks if you fly a lot.
Right. You have to do
Okay.
your research and find a program that works for your travel habits and your spending patterns.
Okay, so we've talked about managing expectations and being smart about booking, but what about the actual flying experience? Like, are there any tips for making that a little better?
Well, I always recommend packing light. Avoid those baggage fees and get yourself some noise-canceling headphones.
Oh yeah, those are essential for blocking out all the noise.
From a good book or download some movies. Anything to help pass the time.
Right, and stay hydrated.
Yes, airplane cabins are so dry, so make sure you drink lots of water and maybe bring a little moisturizer.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the challenges of flying in this new era, but are there any positive aspects to these changes?
Well, one potential upside is that this focus on revenue could lead to more innovation in the industry.
Oh, interesting. So maybe airlines will start investing in new technologies and services that could actually improve the travel experience.
Exactly. Maybe we'll see things like faster check-in processes, more comfortable seats, personalized entertainment.
So maybe there is a silver lining here. It just depends on whether airlines can find the right balance between profitability and customer satisfaction.
And that's really the key question, because the whole industry is trying to figure out how to achieve that balance.
Yeah, and there's no easy answer, but one thing's for sure, the future of air travel is going to look a lot different than what we're used to.
And that's where the Southwest announcement is so interesting. They're not just changing their baggage fees and loyalty program, they're also venturing into new territory with this partnership with Icelandair.
Oh yeah, their first ever industry standard airline partnership. Like, they're really trying to figure out how to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. And this partnership could mean that Southwest is thinking about expanding beyond domestic travel.
So maybe they're trying to tap into new markets and attract a wider range of customers.
It's a bold move,
Right.
especially with all these other changes they're making. It's like they're trying to completely reinvent themselves.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Are they going to alienate their loyal customer base or attract a whole bunch of new travelers?
Yeah, it's a gamble, but it might be a necessary one if they want to survive in this new era of air travel.
So I guess this all comes back to our original question. Is flying becoming less about service and more about maximizing revenue?
It's a complicated question, and I think the answer is more nuanced than a simple yes or no.
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot between making money and keeping customers happy.
And that's a balancing act that we're going to continue to see unfold, and we'll be here to analyze it every step of the way. But first, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors.
So we've talked about all the challenges and all the changes and even a little bit of hope for the future of air travel. But where does this leave us, the passengers? Like, what can we realistically expect going forward as airlines continue to focus more on their revenue?
Well, I think one thing is for sure is we have to be a lot more careful when we're booking flights. Like, we can't just expect that flying is going to be this convenient, comfortable experience that it maybe used to be.
So it's like we have to become air travel survival experts. Like, we need a whole new set of skills to navigate this crazy world of airlines.
Right. It's like airlines are basically unbundling all of their services. So you get the base fare that gets you from point A to point B, and then they charge extra for everything else. So it's up to us to figure out what's worth paying for and what we can just live without.
So we have to be really strategic about our choices.
Exactly. And you have to understand the different fare classes and what they actually include. Like, are you okay with the basic economy fare, even though it limits how much luggage you can bring and you don't get to pick your seat? Or are you willing to pay more for a little bit more flexibility?
It's like we're all becoming airline strategists.
And then you have to think about all the hidden costs, too, like baggage fees and seat selection charges and even Wi-Fi on the plane. All that stuff can add up.
Right. It's easy to get excited about a low base fare, but then suddenly you've paid a fortune for all the extras.
And that's where loyalty programs can be helpful, especially if you fly with a certain airline a lot. It might be worth sticking with their program so you can earn points and get perks that can help offset some of those costs.
But even loyalty programs are changing. Like, they're not really about rewarding loyalty as much as they are about getting people to spend more.
Yeah, that's true. So
Yeah.
you really have to look at your own travel habits and how much you spend and decide if a program is actually going to be worth it for you.
So we've covered the financial side of things, but what about the actual experience of flying? Like, is there anything we can do to make it a little less miserable?
Of course, it all comes down to managing your expectations and focusing on the things you can control, like pack light, bring your own entertainment, stay hydrated. Those are all good ways to make the journey more bearable.
And a positive attitude always helps.
Yeah, traveling can be stressful, but it can also be exciting to try to focus on the destination.
Right. And even though airlines are definitely becoming more focused on making money, they still care about customer satisfaction to some extent. So if you have a bad experience, don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah, you have a voice as a passenger. Use it. Maybe if enough people complain, airlines will start to realize that they can't just push this revenue-driven model too far.
Right. Maybe they'll finally find that balance between profit and happy customers that we've been talking about.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
But I think it's safe to say that the future of air travel is going to be a wild ride.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the airline industry.
We hope you learned a few things today and feel a little bit more prepared to navigate the ever-changing world of air travel. Until next time, safe travels, everyone.